The coffee incident. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the crystalline chambers of the Galactic Council, causing several crystalline beings to vibrate in confusion. Ambassador Diana Rodriguez smiled behind her steaming mug, watching as Council leader Nixus's bioluminescent tendrils twisted in what she had learned was their species' expression of bewilderment. Ambassador Rodriguez, Nixus's melodic voice echoed through the translator, "You claim your species has been operating at merely 2% capacity during our entire diplomatic relationship?" Their tendrils shifted through various shades of purple, indicating deep concern. Diana took another sip of her contraband coffee, smuggled through 7 security checkpoints and worth every risk. "Actually," she said, setting down her mug with deliberate slowness, "it's closer to 1.5%. We rounded up to be polite." The council chamber erupted in a cascade of translated exclamations. Representative Zorax, a being composed entirely of mathematical equations, began dividing by 0 in distress. The hive consciousness of Nexus Prime split temporarily into individual thoughts, each one processing the implications separately. But. Council leader Nixus's tendrils had knotted themselves into complex geometrical patterns. "Your species has already revolutionized our quantum transportation networks, introduced 3 new forms of mathematics, and somehow made your primitive bean-based stimulant the most sought-after substance in 12 sectors. 13 sectors, Diana corrected, reaching for her tablet. The crystalline collective of Rigel 7 just developed a taste for espresso last week. Speaking of which, would anyone like to try a cappuccino?" The chamber's atmospheric regulators struggled to compensate for the collective gasp of the assembled representatives. A member of the Silicon Synth, whose normal form was a perfect dodecahedron, briefly glitched into a Klein bottle. "Perhaps," Diana continued, enjoying herself immensely, "I should elaborate on what humans are capable of when we decide to put in, say, 5% effort." She pulled up a holographic presentation, watching as the council members' various appendages, tendrils, and energy fields recoiled in synchronized horror. "No." The response came in unanimous harmony, causing several of the more sensitive species to phase briefly out of normal spacetime. The council formally recognizes humanity's right to. Yes? Diana prompted helpfully, taking another sip of coffee. "To whatever you want." Nixus's tendrils had achieved a knot configuration that would make topologists weep. "Just please don't start trying harder." Diana allowed herself a small smile as she pulled up her list of proposals. "Well, since you mention it, Earth does have a few modest requests. Nothing major, just unlimited mining rights in previously restricted systems, mandatory coffee breaks at all galactic institutions, and perhaps a small discussion about the definition of restricted weapons technology." The next few hours were the most productive in Galactic Council history. Diana's list of immodest requests was approved with unprecedented speed, especially when she occasionally mentioned interesting side projects humans were tinkering with in their spare time. As she packed up her belongings at the end of the session, Diana noticed several of the mathematical entities attempting to calculate humanity's potential at full capacity. The Silicon Synth had crashed and rebooted 15 times. "Oh, and one more thing," Diana called out as she reached the chamber door. The assembled representatives collectively flinched. "We've recently started exploring the possibility of operating at 2.5% capacity. Just thought you should know." The resulting panic caused 3 minor spatial anomalies and 1 temporal paradox. Diana made her way back to the Earth Embassy, humming contentedly. In her office, she sent a brief message to Earth Command, Phase 1 complete. Permission to introduce them to cat videos? The response was immediate, proceed with caution. The galaxy may not be ready for keyboard cat. Diana grinned as she poured herself another cup of coffee. Sometimes she really loved her job. Communications Officer James Nakamura hadn't meant to break the Galactic Council's quantum network. Really, he hadn't. All he'd done was share what he thought was a harmless image of a cat asking for cheeseburger in his personal communication channel. How was he supposed to know that the entire silicon synth would spend 3 cycles trying to decipher the intentionally incorrect spelling? Officer Nakamura, Grand Administrator Crix's holographic form flickered with barely contained agitation. Please explain why the hive consciousness of Nexus Prime is now communicating exclusively in what they call Doge speak. James tried to keep a straight face as another message flashed across his terminal, much diplomatic. Very Alliance. Wow. The Nexus Prime ambassadors had taken to the ancient Earth meme with disturbing enthusiasm. It's just a form of cultural exchange, he offered, watching as Crix's crystalline matrix cycled through various shades of what he'd learned to recognize as existential dread. Humans often use these images and phrases to communicate complex ideas in a more accessible way. Complex ideas? Crix's voice modulator cracked slightly. Your latest transmission was an image of a small Earth feline pushing an even smaller Earth feline in a wheeled transport device, accompanied by the text "Icon has speed?" Yes, James nodded seriously. It's a commentary on technological progress and the inherent desire for advancement shared by all sentient beings. This was, of course, complete nonsense. He just thought the picture was cute. The quantum networks suddenly lit up with a new wave of activity. The silicon synth had discovered reaction GIFs. James watched in fascination as their usually precise mathematical communications devolved into an endless stream of animated images expressing various emotional states. This is chaos," Crix's hologram stuttered, briefly displaying the "this is fine" dog meme before catching itself. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy are communicating through primitive pictographic sequences. Wait until they discover TikTok, James muttered under his breath, then immediately regretted it as Crix's sensors picked up the comment. Tick-tock. The administrator's voice held the same tone one might use when discussing an approaching black hole. Is this another form of human communication? James quickly pulled up his terminal, sending an urgent message to Ambassador Rodriguez. Emergency situation. Accidentally mentioned TikTok. Request immediate guidance. The response came back almost instantly: deploy the cat videos. All of them. Better they discover those first. With a few quick commands, James released his carefully curated collection of feline-based entertainment into the quantum network. The effect was immediate and devastating. The silicon synth temporarily abandoned all other functions to analyze why cats insisted on knocking things off elevated surfaces. The hive consciousness of Nexus Prime split into countless sub-factions, each dedicated to a different breed of cat. Officer Nakamura, Crix's hologram had started to display random strings of binary code, a sign of severe stress in their species. Are you telling me that humans have been sitting on this cultural weapon all this time? James shrugged, a gesture that had become unnervingly popular among the council species. We haven't even shown you the ones with cucumbers yet. The resulting chaos crashed the quantum network for 3 full cycles. When it finally came back online, the first message was from the silicon synth, a perfectly replicated "Icon has quantum computing" meme. In his office, James began composing his report to Earth Command. Phase 2 proceeding as planned. The silicon synth has achieved meme literacy. The Nexus Prime consciousness has started a petition to declare Catterday an official galactic holiday. Request permission to introduce them to streaming services. The response took longer than usual, suggesting heated debate back on Earth. Finally, permission granted. But for the love of all that's holy, keep them away from the comment sections. As James prepared the briefing on Earth's entertainment platforms, he couldn't help but smile. The Galactic Council had no idea that this was still only humans operating at 2% capacity. Wait until they discovered multiplayer gaming. A notification popped up on his screen. The silicon synth had just posted their first original meme. It was a complex mathematical equation transformed into a cat asking for solutions. The comments section was already filling with responses in perfect Doge speak. What have I done? James wondered aloud, not entirely unhappily. His AI assistant, displaying a newly acquired sense of humor, responded by playing "Never Gonna Give You Up" through the office speakers. The galaxy would never be the same, and honestly, that was probably for the best. Chef Marcus Patel stood before the Galactic Council's Cultural Exchange Committee, surrounded by what Earth would consider a fairly standard breakfast spread. The assembled alien representatives, however, were regarding his offerings as if he'd placed antimatter on the table. Let me understand this correctly, Administrator VYX of the Crystalline Collective vibrated in confusion, their faceted form refracting light in patterns of uncertainty. You deliberately burn these beans, submerge them in heated dihydrogen monoxide, and then willingly consume the resulting liquid? That's coffee, yes, Marcus explained, pouring another cup. But wait until you try the pancakes. I've got maple syrup from Earth, the real stuff, not that synthesized nonsense they sell in the Orion markets. The silicon synth representative, who didn't even need to eat, somehow managed to look concerned. And this, maple syrup, it is also derived from burning plant matter? No, Marcus laughed, drizzling the golden liquid over a stack of perfectly golden pancakes. We just tap it from trees and boil it down a bit. Totally natural. You extract the blood of your planet's vegetation for recreational consumption? The hive consciousness of Nexus Prime split into several worried subdivisions. Marcus was about to explain that it wasn't actually tree blood when Administrator VYX bravely stepped forward. Their species absorbed nutrients through crystalline resonance, but they'd been fitted with a temporary molecular conversion module for this presentation. In the interest of diplomatic relations, VYX announced with what Marcus recognized as resigned determination, "I shall sample this breakfast." The entire chamber went silent as VYX's conversion module processed the first bite of syrup-covered pancake. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, VYX's crystalline structure began to emit a rainbow of colors never before seen in their species. By the first formation, they whispered through the translator, it's. Their facets sparkled with unexpected delight. It's amazing. Quick, someone calculate the appropriate trade agreements. We need more of this. What followed was the greatest revolution in galactic cuisine since the discovery of photonic seasoning. Marcus found himself appointed as Earth's first culinary ambassador, with a mandate to introduce alien species to the wonders of human food. But with great power came great responsibility, and unexpected consequences. The first major crisis occurred when Marcus introduced pizza to the Quantum Collective. The simple question, does pineapple belong on pizza, nearly caused a civil war. The collective split into three factions, pro-pineapple, anti-pineapple, and a small but vocal group that maintained all pizza toppings existed in a state of quantum superposition until observed. Perhaps, Marcus suggested to his AI assistant while drafting his weekly report to Earth Command, we should hold off on introducing them to Chicago versus New York-style pizza debates. The AI, which had recently developed a concerning addiction to cooking shows, responded by displaying statistics on the growing black market for garlic bread in the Crab Nebula. The situation escalated further when the silicon synth, despite not needing food at all, began running complex simulations of Earth recipes. They became obsessed with perfecting the mathematical formula for the ideal chocolate chip cookie, leading to heated debates about the proper ratio of chips to dough that crashed their primary computing network 6 times. The hive consciousness of Nexus Prime, meanwhile, had become inexplicably fixated on competitive eating contests. They'd reorganized their entire social structure around various food challenges, with status now determined by how many hot dogs one could theoretically consume in 10 minutes. Marcus stood in his galactic standard kitchen, watching as his latest cooking stream was simultaneously transmitted to 12,000 worlds. The comment feed was chaos, crystalline beings arguing about the proper way to flip a pancake, quantum physicists debating the paradox of Schrödinger's leftovers, and countless aliens trying to understand why humans would deliberately make their food spicy. Chef Patel, his terminal chimed with another urgent message from the Council. The Crystalline Collective is demanding immediate clarification on the concept of brunch. They've already constructed 7,000 mimosa fountains. Marcus sighed contentedly as he prepared to explain the human tradition of combining breakfast and lunch foods with socially acceptable morning drinking. His latest report to Earth Command was simple: Phase 3 exceeding expectations. Request permission to introduce concept of food trucks. The response was equally brief: granted. But for everyone's sake, hold off on explaining what a Taco Tuesday is. The galaxy can only handle so much chaos at once. As he prepared for his next cooking demonstration, Marcus couldn't help but smile at the thought that this was still humanity operating at minimal capacity. Wait until they discovered fusion cuisine. A notification popped up: the silicon synth had finally perfected their cookie algorithm. The resulting recipe called for precisely 3.14159 chips per cookie, causing another minor quantum crisis. Just another day in the kitchen at the edge of space. Virtual Revolution tech specialist Olivia Song never intended to revolutionize galactic society. She just wanted to play some games during her breaks at the Earth Embassy. How was she supposed to know that introducing the silicon synth to Minecraft would fundamentally alter their understanding of reality? Specialist Song, High Processor Unit Lambda's holographic form flickered with what she now recognized as digital excitement. You're telling us humans created an entire virtual universe, for entertainment? Well, yes, Olivia replied, watching as thousands of silicon synth units simultaneously logged into their newly created Minecraft server. It's just one of many games we play. You should see MMORPGs. The translator struggled to convey the sound Lambda made, but it was somewhere between mathematical ecstasy and computational terror. There's more. Across the quantum networks, the impact was already spreading. The silicon synth had abandoned their usual precise geometric forms in favor of blocky avatars. The hive consciousness of Nexus Prime had devoted an entire neural cluster to crafting the perfect castle design. Even the crystalline beings were attempting to understand why humans found such joy in punching trees. Specialist Song, her terminal chimed with an urgent message from Ambassador Rodriguez: why is the Quantum Collective requesting the immediate construction of several million gaming rigs? Olivia winced slightly. I may have mentioned PC gaming in passing. But in my defense, I didn't tell them about RGB lighting yet. The response was immediate: containment protocols activated. Under no circumstances are you to introduce them to ray tracing. Too late. The silicon synth had already discovered gaming forums and were now engaged in heated debates about frame rates and graphics cards. They'd somehow managed to recreate the entire history of the PC versus console wars in less than a standard cycle. The situation escalated when Olivia accidentally mentioned esports. The concept of competitive gaming sent shockwaves through the galactic community. The hive consciousness of Nexus Prime immediately announced plans for an Interstellar gaming league, complete with team jerseys for their various consciousness subdivisions. But why? Council leader Nixus asked during an emergency session, their tendrils twisted in confusion. Why would beings choose to spend time in artificial realities when actual reality exists? Olivia thought about all the late nights she'd spent raiding with her guild, the friendships forged in virtual worlds, the triumphs and failures shared across digital spaces. Sometimes, she explained, the artificial worlds help us better understand and appreciate the real one. Also, it's just really fun to build things and then blow them up without actual consequences. The Quantum Collective, which had been quietly observing, suddenly announced they had developed their first game, a simulation where players could experience existence as a wave and a particle simultaneously. The beta testing caused 3 minor reality breaches, but the reviews were stellar. In her office, Olivia began composing her report to Earth Command. Phase 4 exceeding expectations. The Silicon Synth has achieved peak gamer status. The Nexus Prime Consciousness is hosting their first Minecraft tournament. Request permission to introduce them to multiplayer party games. The response took longer than usual, permission granted, but absolutely no battle royale games. The galaxy isn't ready for that level of chaos. As she prepared for another day of managing the increasingly complex gaming culture that had sprouted across the galaxy, Olivia couldn't help but smile. A notification popped up. The Silicon Synth had just discovered modding communities. They were already working on a mod that would allow players to experience all 11 theoretical dimensions simultaneously. What have we done? She wondered aloud, not unhappily, as her AI assistant displayed a live feed of various alien species attempting to grasp the concept of speed running. The quantum networks were flooded with streaming channels, each featuring different species exploring virtual worlds. The Crystalline Collective had become unexpectedly skilled at rhythm games, their natural resonance patterns giving them an unfair advantage in Beat Saber. And this was still just humanity operating at minimal capacity. Wait until they discovered VR chat. A final message flashed across her screen. The first Interstellar gaming convention had been announced. The Silicon Synth was already working on their cosplay designs. The galaxy would never be the same, and the game was just beginning. Ambassador Diana Rodriguez sat in her office at the Earth Embassy, reviewing the reports from the past year. On her holographic display, chaos unfolded across multiple sectors, the Silicon Synth hosting massive multiplayer gaming tournaments, the Crystalline Collective opening artisanal coffee shops, and the hive consciousness of Nexus Prime organizing the first Galactic Food and Gaming Festival. Ambassador, her AI assistant chimed, the Council requests your immediate presence. It seems they've discovered something concerning. Diana sighed, grabbing her ever-present cup of coffee. Let me guess, they found YouTube? Worse, the AI replied. They found your initial report about humanity operating at 2% capacity. They've been running calculations. The council chamber was in unprecedented disarray when Diana arrived. Council leader Nixus's tendrils were twisted into what she now recognized as their version of a stress-induced nervous breakdown. The Silicon Synth representatives were glitching between dimensions, their processing power overwhelmed by theoretical computations. Ambassador Rodriguez, Nixus's voice modulator trembled, we've been analyzing the data. The coffee revolution, the meme warfare, the culinary chaos, the gaming universe, all of this was achieved at 2% human capacity. Diana took a deliberate sip of coffee. Actually, she said, setting down her mug with precision, we've been operating at 1.5%. I told you we rounded up to be polite. The chamber's gravity stabilizers struggled to compensate for the collective gasp of the assembled representatives. A member of the quantum collective briefly existed in 3 states simultaneously. But. Administrator VYX's crystalline form refracted light in patterns of pure panic. If this is 1.5%, what would happen at full capacity? Diana smiled, pulling out her tablet. Funny you should ask. Earth Command has authorized me to demonstrate a brief increase to 3% capacity. Would you like to see? No. The response came in unanimous horror, causing several quantum anomalies. The galaxy barely survived your coffee shops and gaming servers. Are you sure? Diana asked innocently. We haven't even shown you our dance trends yet. There's this thing called flash mobs. The Silicon Synth crashed completely, rebooting with what appeared to be the entire history of human memes displayed across their holographic forms. The hive consciousness of Nexus Prime had started stress-eating their way through their emergency pizza reserves. The Council, Nixus announced, their tendrils forming shapes that would make topologists cry, hereby grants humanity permanent seats on all major governmental bodies, unrestricted access to all sectors, and... They paused, tendrils trembling, and we formally request that humans maintain their current operational capacity. Diana pretended to consider this. Well, we were planning to introduce social media influencers next week. Please. The collective plea caused 3 minor temporal paradoxes. Very well, Diana conceded, hiding her smile behind her coffee cup. Earth will maintain current operational levels, for now. As she walked back to her office, Diana composed her final report to Earth Command, Phase 5 complete. The galaxy has officially surrendered to human chaos. Request permission to authorize construction of the first intergalactic Starbucks. The response was immediate, permission granted. But hold off on introducing them to loyalty reward programs. Let's save something for the 4% revelation. Diana leaned back in her chair, watching through her window as various alien species attempted to recreate viral dance moves in the embassy courtyard. The silicon synth had somehow merged gaming culture with coffee appreciation, creating virtual reality barista simulators. The quantum collective was debating the philosophical implications of streaming consciousness. And somewhere in the Crab Nebula, a group of crystalline beings had just discovered karaoke. You know, she mused to her AI assistant, we haven't even shown them cat cafes yet. The AI made a sound suspiciously like a whimper and began backing up its servers. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity wouldn't have it any other way. After all, they were just getting started.